diseases are very low in predictability of, or excuse me, diagnosis.
Curability.
If you have a 20% survival rate,
Right.
and you survive, you attribute that to God if you're a believer.
Right.
And if you don't survive, or if your loved ones don't survive, you also attribute that, you have to attribute that to God, not to mention the fact that God put the disease there in the first place. So shouldn't you be blaming God? And
Right.
of course, you know what the argument against that belief is that, well, we're all sinful. God's punishing us for our sins. Of course, God's punishing us, and then He's healing us. To me, that's kind of a dichotomy. You can't have both.
Well, here's the dichotomy, or one of the issues. People never think back to the plagues that have plagued society in Europe at times, the Black Plagues that killed, tens of thousands of people all around Europe. That was the days when we really didn't have doctors or medicine as we understand it now. I mean, you did have a certain amount of medicine where they bled people, or they did some really archaic and strange things on people. They might have used herbs or salves, but they really never knew whether they worked. It was kind of they're just crossing their fingers and hoping somebody gets well. Well, if one person gets well, then it gets around the community that you got a good doctor here, when in reality you have nothing. But why did God wait until modern medicine came around for all of these problems and diseases to be healed? I mean, we've eliminated a lot of diseases in the last
That's a very good point. I haven't thought about that one before in Jesus' time, or all the way up until the 17th century, 18th century.
Yeah, why would God allow all these people to suffer all that time until doctors came onto the scene and science took over?
All of a sudden, people are being healed. Why?
Right.
Because of God or because of science? Religion somehow takes science, puts it on their back, actually, I shouldn't even say on their back, but rides science to some of their arguments that God is actually in existence. So,
well, they're using it to provide a certain amount of justification for their beliefs. Many of these real fundamentalist groups say they strongly support science, and but they pick and choose. Mm-hmm. Why would you discount evolution in favor of a designer when there's a tremendous amount of evolution or evidence to support evolution, and virtually nothing to demonstrate that there is a God that is dictating
or evidence
things.
that God made man or any of the other fossils.
Right.
And of course they have their own arguments, but I'm going to bring up a particular subject that relates not only to the fossil and paleontology arguments that Christians make, excuse me, but also with all science-related information that religious people bring in to support their claims, and that is a new acronym I've developed called FOSC, F-O-S-C, and that stands for Field of Study Consensus. So when a group of scientists get together, let's take paleontologists, they get together once or twice a year all around the world, and they talk about new fossils and where they belong in the timeline of the Earth. And 95% of them will eventually agree, and sometimes it takes a lot of arguing, sometimes for years or even decades, when somebody brings in a fossil and says this fossil belongs in this particular timeline of the Earth because it goes underneath this species and above this species, that if 95% of paleontologists or 95% of any field of study agree on something, that to me is factual because it's gone through the rigors of examination, very, very strict peer examination, peer group examination, and come out ahead, meaning there's a multitude of evidence, not just one or two pieces of evidence, but many pieces of evidence that dictate that this is fact, that this is what we believe is science.
Well, I think talking about this subject in science in general is going to be a topic for a whole show because most people don't understand how science works. Mm-hmm. In school you learn some basic things about the methods of science. You observe something, mm-hmm. You develop a hypothesis as to what the explanation may be. You do some experimentation. In general, that's what most kids learn, but they don't realize that there's a lot more to science than what they are ever taught.
That's right.
You mentioned peer review. It has to be testable or falsifiable.
Well, that falsifiable and testable is another discussion. And now it's time for the Bible contradiction of the week, and that is on Genesis. Are you familiar with Genesis, Vaughn?
Oh yeah, in the beginning, everybody's familiar with that. Right.
Well, of course, there's 2 chapters of Genesis, and I have recently been given a book by Vaughn called The Encyclopedia of Biblical Errancy. And this encyclopedia is basically a contradiction encyclopedia of the Bible.
Bible of contradictions.
That's right. And as you can see, I've well read through it and made my notes. And I'm not even going to go through it, but it's the Encyclopedia of Biblical Errancies by Dennis McKinsey. Excuse me, you can get this on Amazon. And I'm just going to say the first 2 chapters of Genesis. Read it carefully, and on a separate piece of paper, mark things out of the timeline. That's all you have to do. First chapter, mark everything out. Second chapter, go back through what you've written, and you'll see 18 obvious and very non-ambiguous contradictions. Now, for those who say the Bible is inerrant, meaning no errors, this is the first 2 chapters of the Bible. I love talking about the Bible because I believe that anybody who actually reads the Bible intently and can see the contradictions will eventually lose his faith. I know that's very difficult for Christians of faith to understand because most Christians don't read the Bible in a contradictionary fashion. They simply take the morals and take it in. But this particular book is incredible, and it's very hard to dispute, even from an apologetic Christian standpoint, how many contradictions there are in the Bible. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, not at this point.
Okay.
No.
At this time, we usually accept our emails and questions, but since it's one of our first 2 or 3 shows that we're doing right now, we don't have any emails. So again, if you have a computer, look up us at backyardskeptics.com. Eventually, we'll have our own webpage, but right now it's backyardskeptics.com, and you can email us at ocatheists, without an S, ocatheists. It is an S.
Oh.
Excuse me, it is an S. Otheacius, plural, at backyardskeptics.com. It'll be printed on the bottom of the show here. We have a secular quote that we have, so here comes our secular quote for this show. Okay, we're coming back from the secular quote, and now we're on 2. I'd like to thank Vaughn for joining me on this show. Vaughn's one of the many co-hosts that we'll have on the Orange County Atheist Show. Thank you very much for coming, Vaughn.
It's been a lot of fun.
It has been a lot of fun.
We'll have many more
There's
of these
so
gatherings.
much to talk about.
Right.
I mean, I could talk about this for days, it seems like. And I know we go on tangents, but we get some things done. And eventually we're going to have more viewers and have a lot of email comments to answer. So be prepared.
Yeah, and that's what makes being a skeptic or an atheist so difficult, because we have so many issues that we have to deal with.